Hi everyone, welcome to Platform Conference 2025 talk series. In this session, I'm going to talk about platform driven thinking in the product development. And I'm talking about how a product development during ideation and development uh, needs to have a mindset of platform centric implementation uh, and deep dive into the insights of what are those core methodologies that platform thinking needs to be adapted in product development. I'm Kiran, and I have 20 years of experience in product development and platform development, and have experience at managing scale, operationalizing the data analytics platforms across the globe. All right, let's get into how a product development and the mindset during the product development works. Typically, the product development lifecycle involves market research, identifying the customer needs, and brainstorming on the ideas and coming up with functional, non functional requirements, talking to the stakeholders to understand their requirements, prioritization of the features, and coming with a product roadmap. Then getting into the design phase where engineering teams gets involved and architect to implement the user features that is identified during the product features and roadmap, and they design the architecture, implement, iterate with the product to see if it is meeting the requirements of the features on the roadmap, and then they start coding and deploy to testing teams to test for the quality, where it is done integrating with different systems, checking for the performance aspect of it, security and scalability aspects of it, and then will be deployed to the production. Once it deploys to the production, this is where the operations, dev operations teams, SREs come into picture, where they monitor the health performances and maintain the platforms and the products, and applying the patches or doing debugging with the customer care on customer issues and helping solve them, answering like the questions. So this iteration happens, and then that's where the product mindset, product development life cycle typically works. So in this whole life cycle, the involvement of the operations and realization of the bugs happens at the later part of the development cycle or towards tail end of the development cycle. Instead, the mindset where when you are ideating the product, starting from product manager to engineering teams, if the feature set includes the operational challenges that could be predicted well ahead of time, would greatly influence the product to be scalable, resilient, and adaptable the customer requirements without having to reinvent or re-architect based on the new features or operational support challenges that arise post deployment. All right, coming from the product development and platform development background, what we have realized is during the product ideation, having said about the product development lifecycle, based on the experience on developing the products and the platforms, what we have realized is during the product development, starting from ideation to design for both the roles of product managers and the engineering team, they have, if core principles of platform development, if they can be adapted right at the ideation stage by the product managers, not just limiting to the feature set, but squaring in the requirements of post deployment or post operational support at the product ideation stage, along with the feature set, and engineering teams designing the architecture not just in the context of the requirements of the features that is required by product, instead designing the architecture where it incorporates the core principles of platform architectures and platform designs, can greatly influence the products transform to platforms. Let's get to what's platform design thinking. So, the core of a platform thinking is building an ecosystem where it enables to build on top of those platforms. That means you have to have the core design principles of modularity, scalability, extensibility, and cost effectiveness when you are designing a platform. So, the core of these design principles, when you are designing the architecture in the product development, greatly influences how we don't have to reinvest the time to a great extent on how do we minimize and make the product scale to the requirements of different user personas, whether it is businesses are using the products or users, direct end customers using the product, will greatly influence by adapting these characteristics of core design platform thinking to scale these products, adapt to the users. Let's go each of the core deep dive into each of the core design principles. When we say modular, we are not talking about the whole product as modular. Instead, features to be modular. That means every feature sets of the product, every feature needs to be modularized. The dependency or interdependency on the other feature needs to be minimized or removed so as to scale the product, not product as a whole, but modules as a whole, so that you don't have to worry about the resources that is required to scale the whole product. Instead, you will only scale the user features, the user features of the product or the specific features of the product to scale based on the requirements of the businesses who is using this product or users who is using this. Designing the modules or the features of the product so that it is configurable when you are installing or when you are using greatly influences how a different features of a product when adapted by different user personas can scale to their requirements instead of product as a whole. And when it comes to scalable things, we need to design the product. When you are designing the features of the product, the whole DNA of platform designing is to make sure that you are developing a feature with configurable parameters. Let's take we are implementing a specific module where it translates to a feature which requires high memory resources as in memory, CPU, or threads, whatever could be. The resources, let's say if it is resource intensive, by tying that module with another module which is less resource intensive could pose challenges when scaling in terms of resources that is required to scale that sub feature versus the whole product. So making is a feature configurable and modular is going to be the key in making a product design to be in the thinking of a platform design. Now, scalable aspect of it, like I discussed, once you have modularity achieved in the design, the scalability aspect of it gets easier. Scalability as a product exists, but scalability at a module level is going to greatly appreciated by the users who are going to use these features where they're only interested in specific feature set instead of the whole feature set of the product. Other very important and core aspect of a platform is extensibility. So when we are designing a product in the product development, when the engineering teams design it, design has to be extensible, as in there is a limited feature set, and when the product releases, there are certain features that users have interest on, and there would be requests to enhance the requests. So instead of having a closed design where it is catered to the requirements of that specific feature of the product, instead make it open and extensible, providing alternatives to the users who wants to extend it to the requirements of their internal implementations of the organizations which is adopting the product or users who are going to leverage this design. So this will extensibility is going to greatly influence how our product, which is going to be developed with specific set of features, can easily be extendable to integrate to other platforms, and also enables users to create their own innovation into the platform, where you are creating the whole ecosystem around the product, where you're not just limiting the feature sets that you are defined, but expanding the capabilities of your product to the innovation of the users who is using, who can develop and probably provide as a plugins to the product feature set that this product caters to. By leveraging the modularity, extensibility, we are going to incorporate a lot of inherent cost-effective architecture that we have defined by reducing the re-architecture. While re-architecture is not completely avoidable, but it extends greatly to reduce re-architecture expenses, especially when a specific feature is being used. Like we said, when you are saying modular, how do you make every feature as modular so that if a user's use of a specific feature is not resource intensive, and you need to expand that particular feature for that particular user, either organization or a user, then the resources required to scale is going to be very limited. That means your product is going to provide better cost effective solutions to the user who is using the product for those features which they are very interested in and which can scale to. And at the end of the day, the product is going to be faring better than competitors when your solution or a product has cost effective nature embedded into it, where users doesn't have to worry on how do we um, re-architect. Like, they don't have to invest time on giving the requirements back to them, the product owners, and then delivering the solutions. It reduces the cost both for the users who are using it and the engineering team who is going to reinvest to recreate the architecture or re-architect specific modules or features of the product. Last but not the least, actionable operational insights. This is a pretty crucial part of every platform, where the operations team come into picture, realize certain problems, report back, not based on the proactive way, but not based on the reactive way, but on the proactive way. That means generally operations teams go ahead and parse the logs to see a problem, but instead, if a product can have inherent capabilities to alert to an interface, which can be a custom interface, where the users of the product is going to leverage that to gain actionable insights proactively, can greatly influence the product design, which is a core of platforms design and observation and integration. So rather than parsing the logs, if there is a way to design the product to integrate with modern third party observable frameworks or platforms, will greatly influence the adaptability by the users. The real challenge in the ever dynamic changing world is when you have a product, and if the product is owned by another organization or leveraged by an organization, how do they use their products within the framework of their ecosystem or tools, where this product gets blend naturally, is a key in realizing the usability of this product. So having said that, designing the product with all of these uh, core concepts of platforms like modularity, scalability, cost effectiveness, and integration with other systems and extensibility is going to greatly influence the product design capabilities or product adoption capabilities and product success factors. So I think these are the core concepts if we incorporate in product development phase, that is going to greatly influence the product success. Thank you so much for this opportunity. You can reach me out on LinkedIn at Kiran Patibandla, and thank you so much.